Hello and welcome to the Days of Yore. Today we'll be speaking about the Beaubear Credit Union's first year, 1938 to 1939. But first, just an addition to our previous episode on the Bill Dolan house. I was very pleased to receive word from Andrew Dolan Taylor, who wrote to me about a missing piece in the history of the Dolan house, something that I left out. So as I always say, I'm not an expert, and I'm very grateful to folks like Kara who reach out to me and fill in the gaps in my knowledge. So Kara writes, it's but a little gap, like I say, between the time of her grandfather, her Clarence Dolan, and the time when Jack Harnish, the carpenter, took over ownership of the house in 1984. So it's interesting, of course, that we're talking about this period because this is the period when Andrew, or more commonly known as Drew Dolan, owned the house. And by an interesting coincidence, Mr. Dolan was a former board member here for the Friends of Beaubear's Island. So Mr. Dolan was the son of Clarence and his wife Agnes. Unfortunately, his parents passed away when he was a very young boy. And he went to Newcastle, to Falkner Street, and lived with his aunt and his uncle. And it was during this time that the house was divided into apartments. And sometime later, once Drew got old enough, he came back to the house and was able to occupy it. And he lived there with his wife and his two daughters. Before selling it in 1984. And Kara Dolan Taylor shared with me some very cherished memories of her time in the house, watching the salmon jump from the veranda, playing in the unoccupied apartments when they were vacant, and of course, roller skating through the house. So, like I say, I really appreciate her, again, helping me fill in my knowledge. And I encourage you, as you watch these episodes, if you see, if I've got my facts back to front, if you see that there's something that I've missed, just do please reach out. Put something in the comments below, or find us on Facebook and let us know. I'm more than happy to have sections like this at the first of episodes, just again, and addressing some small gaps. Like I say, it helps everybody learn, and me not least of all. So I'm very grateful for any help that you all offer. So, as I say, today we're going to be speaking about the first year of the Beaubear Credit Union. And I got most of my information today from Mary Gill's book, written in 1988 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the credit union. So we'll begin then by addressing kind of some of the contextual issues surrounding the formation of the credit union. As you'll remember, several weeks ago now, probably the best part of a few months, we spoke about the O'Brien Bridge. Now, again, the bridge that connected Nelson to Derby Junction, and that was lost in 1912. And the fact that it was replaced by the Morrissey Bridge in 1914. So, of course, you know, and I think we discussed at that time, that there were many implications of the construction of the Morrissey Bridge, which now allowed traffic to bypass Nelson entirely. And that large industrial base that we've often talked about here on the Days of Yore began to shrink. And of course, the First World War that also came in 1914, the Depression that followed that war, all of these things took a heavy toll on the Nelson community. And there was, unfortunately, a great economic downturn in those years. It was at this same time that Father James M. Hill, who, of course, for whom the local high school in Chatham is named, was traveling through the area. He was the rector at St. Thomas College in Chatham and had been inspired by the work of Father Moses Cody at St. Francis Xavier University. So he began to speak in the community about opportunities for cooperation along the lines that Father Cody had outlined in his own writings. He began to speak about greater self-reliance in the community, and that banding together could be a solution to some of these problems that Nelson was facing economically. So what that resulted in was 9 meetings. 9 meetings that took place between April and June of 1938. These were also known as study groups. And though the end formation of the credit union revolved around 10 men, I remember doing some research on the credit union probably about between 2008 and 2014. And I remember speaking to Dorothy and Vince, about those early years of the credit union. And Dorothy was speaking about the fact that, again, that a lot of women were involved in these study groups, and that this process of study, he really helped people to get to know their neighbors and really get to know those people that were around them, and that it was really something that was very important to the community, and it was a really community building experience. So I think we often think about kind of these 10 men, which I'm about to talk about, and we kind of forget the fact that this really was a community effort, spearheaded certainly by individuals, but like I say, it was something that all of Nelson was involved with. So out of these groups came, again, this now famous meeting of 10 men at the Gould House on June the 13th, 1938. So these 10 men came together and they signed a document requesting the incorporation of what would become the Beaubear Credit Union. They chose the name Beaubear for Beaubear's Island, which they felt was another place where a lot of people came and worked together in order to achieve any number of goals. As true today, I think, as it was in the 19th century. So I think Beaubear's is definitely a great example of cooperation in many respects. And so they also, perhaps very famously, each put 25 cents down as the unit of savings. They chose as a quarter as a unit of savings for the credit union. Every 2 weeks, members would pay a quarter, so about 50 cents a month. And they would again they open their savings account with a quarter. So again, it's not a lot of money. Certainly not a lot of money today, and even in 1938, 25 cents was not a lot of money. But again, $2.50. So I mean, it's interesting to think, 10 quarters in a dish, from that grew the Beaubear Credit Union. It's really quite something. So these 10 men, and you'll excuse the view of the top of my head as I read. So Father E.J. Connors, Clorin Coughlin, Adrian English, George Stewart, Cleo Gould, Frank Marr, John McCarthy, Raymond Murphy, Douglas Stewart, and Bert Coughlin. So these 10 men formed the first, formed at that first meeting in June of 1938. By July the 22nd, the Beaubear Credit Union had its charter. 2 days later, on the 24th, they had their first meeting. And at that first meeting, Cleo Gould was chosen as the treasurer and manager of the credit union. So Cleo Gould was 33 years old at this time. He had been born in 1905. He had a wife, and was a railway worker. Again, if my research is correct. So again, I mean, you're not talking about somebody who was, again, a high-powered financial figure. He was not somebody that had kind of climbed with the corporate ladder. The manager of the credit union was somebody that was drawn from the community and got his job because the other people in the room whom trusted him. So again, and that's what those were the requisites at the time. I'm sure there were others. I'm sure that, you know, Cleo Gould had other skills that were not apparent in the historical research of the time. But again, you know, those were things that were really important at that time. Somebody in the community, somebody that people could trust. So there we go. So the credit union itself would serve a large area here within the parish of Nelson. That would begin in a stretch from Foley Hill to Bendarash's in Chatham Head. It would stretch from Dan Connell's through Douglasfield, Craigville, and Reynolds, which was about 1.5 kilometers outside of Nallenville. So again, it was covering a rather large area. And again, as I mentioned, the unit of savings was 25 cents every 2 weeks, and one would be considered as having bought a share in the credit union after they had saved $5. So again, not a lot of money, but again, it was important to start those accounts. And it's because a lot of what the credit union was there for was to help to finance loans and small loans in order to help people get back on their feet in the midst of the economic depression. And I think that kind of comes to light when we look at the first report of that first year in the credit union, really that first 6 months or so. It was reported on the 15th of January 1939 at the first general meeting of the credit union, earnings of about $1.28, loans of $99, assets of $93.55, and there were 45 members of the credit union. So again, things are pretty modest to start here. You know, they've loaned out $99. They've brought back in. They've got about $93.55 in savings. They've managed to make $1.28 in interest. So again, you know, it's very small. But again, as they say, you know, from the tiny acorn grows the mighty oak. And you know, bit by bit, piece by piece, the credit union began to be built. And again, it's certainly an enviable legacy today. I think we'll leave it there for now. I'm sure we'll probably be back to speak about the credit union in its other forms and as it grew in subsequent episodes. As I mentioned before, if there's anything that I've missed here, if there's anything that you who feel should have been added, do please let us know. If you have requests for episodes, let us know that as well. Have a look at the options below. For Patreon, there's exclusive content that is now available to all subscribers. And of course, at the very least, if you like this video, do please like it, subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss anything more that Ken and I have to offer. And speaking of Ken, he'll be here next week with another episode of The Living Island. I will be back in 2 weeks' time. And for the days of yore, I've been Dr. Sean McCarthy. Thanks so much.